On Mondays, the train doors spit everyone into the same gray hallway, and everyone performs the same choreography. Laptops hugged to ribs, coffee lids aimed like compasses, badges out, eyes dead. I had a badge, a compass, dead eyes. What I didn't have that Monday was the reflex to stand up when the doors hissed. I watched my stop drift by like a life I'd already sat through. Past the parking deck, past the man with the yellow safety vest who waves like a lonely lighthouse, past the billboard reminding us that decisions aren't forever. I stayed seated, palms flat on my thighs as if pinning myself in place. Nobody cared. That's the best and worst thing about American mornings. You could quietly detonate your life in a public place, and the only witness would be the announcements telling you your detonation is 10 minutes delayed due to congestion ahead. I rode it to the end of the line. The terminal out there is more concrete than idea. Windy, goose-patrolled, the kind of place that feels like a loading screen. I stepped off into air that smelled like rain on hot asphalt and the metal taste that says it's going to storm even if the sky's a liar. My phone buzzed. "Where are you from my manager?" Usually those words slide ice under my ribs. Today they felt like a bug on the windshield. I flicked them off. Somewhere between Friday and this platform, the elastic in my life had snapped. The thought came clear and round. What if I just didn't answer, didn't fix, didn't try to be promoted into a better version of the same room? I walked until the terminal turned into a frontage road, then a stretch of chain link, then the kind of American nowhere that keeps a half-dead bar open for shift work and men with reasons they are not telling. It was 8:40 a.m. The bar was open. The bartender had a denim vest and a neon sign reflected in her glasses that said golden light, which made everything look warmer than it was. By noon, I'd bought a paper map from a gas station that sold fried burritos and braided paracord leashes. I pinned that map to the drywall of my apartment with pushpins from a junk drawer and threw a dart so cheap its flight wobbled. It landed in the Pacific Ocean. I threw again. This time it thunked into Washington State, upper left corner, the part you draw last as a kid and give up on the squiggles. That night, I told my mother I might take a little trip. She told me to bring a raincoat. I told her I would. I didn't. You can drive west until the country starts to smell like trees instead of promises. Long days through Nebraska radio, Wyoming crosswinds, a Utah motel where someone had screwed a "no smoking" sign into a ceiling, yellowed into a permanent ghost of smoke anyway. Oregon rolled in soft and evergreen, gentle hills hiding the fact that the Pacific will take your breath and your hat at the same time if you're not holding on. I gave myself permissions I used to save for Fridays. Pie at 2 p.m. A bookstore binge, staring at a shelf of car camping gear and deciding a stranger was right when he said the smaller stove boiled faster. Freedom tastes like diner coffee and a receipt you don't look at hard. The rain started 2 counties short of the national park. No wind, no drama, just lines, thin and straight like the artist was tired of shading. The locals call it November rain even if it's July. It matted the cedars and turned the road black enough to reflect my headlights like twin knives. I meant to find a motel. I meant to be smart. Instead, I followed a side road posted with a wooden sign that had once said scenic overlook before moss and bullet holes collaborated. The road narrowed until it felt like I was steering down a memory. Ferns combed both doors. Water hissed on the hood. The phone lost bars. Then the time. I saw the house because it decided I could. It sat back from the road with the posture of something that was new 20 years ago and has been politely ignored ever since. Not rotten, not haunted pretty. Builder beige where the paint still held. The kind of place a realtor would stage with 3 cheerful lemons in a white bowl. Porch. 2 rocking chairs that matched the weather instead of each other. Someone had planted pots. Someone had given up watering them. I pulled in like I'd been invited. The rain came straight down hard enough that stepping from the car to the porch felt like lowering myself into a shower with my clothes on. The porch roof made a drum out of the storm. The instant I was under it, the quiet felt like a secret. Knocking on a door like this makes you feel dumb or hopeful. I knocked anyway. Nobody answered. I tried the knob, and because I have always been lucky at the wrong moments, it turned. Inside smelled like cold closets. The living room had a couch that wasn't stained yet, and a TV mounted too high, like the installer was tall and proud of it. Kitchen. Laminate counters pretending to be stone. Refrigerator hum. The kind of art that comes in frames when frames come in bulk. Boat, tree, bowl. Hello. I called into rooms that didn't echo right. Hey, anyone home? I laid my keys on the entry table and immediately didn't like that I'd done that. I picked them back up. Every non-sound had a weight. The windows should have brightened with the world going on outside. Instead, the rain turned them gray. My phone admitted one last bar. I opened Noah out of habit. Clear. 0% precip. The little sun icon looked smug. I cracked the front door to check if I'd lost my mind. The rain came down in columns. No drift, no movement sideways, as if gravity had decided to be tidy. Out by the ditch, something pale stood between young hemlocks. I closed the door because there's a difference between curiosity and asking to be told a story you can't get out of. I double-locked. I told myself it was a statue a hunter had left, a prank, a tree wrapped in light. I told myself things Americans tell themselves when the weird shows up in a place we'd already decided was safe. The kitchen had drawers. Drawers have answers. I pulled one. Rubber bands, takeout menus, a church bulletin from a place called Dry Creek Baptist, even though Dry Creek was crossed out and someone had written Higher Creek in pen. The pastor's name caught the corner of my eye. Same last name as my mother's maiden. Coincidence is just a word that means your brain is bored. The fridge. I opened it expecting baking soda and a dying bulb. Instead, a dozen brown boxes stamped meal, combat, individual, MCI rations, the kind my grandfather used to complain about out loud and eat in silence. A torn label, 1969 Fort Lewis. The plastic felt newer than it should. I set one on the counter for later and told myself I wasn't unwrapping Vietnam in a stranger's kitchen. The TV remote was on the arm of the couch. The TV woke to a single channel, grayscale, filmed by a hand that didn't breathe. An attic, low rafters, a candle stub burning on a plank. Someone sitting with their back to the camera, spine like wire under skin. They didn't move. I clicked volume up and down like volume changes angle. It didn't. My phone trembled in my hand. Emergency calls only. I hit 911 because that's what you hit when you're 20 minutes past your plan and there's a person who might not be a person sitting in an attic on your TV. 911. What is your emergency? Hi. I'm at a house off. I looked at the window, which refused to show me the road. Off a side road near mile marker. I don't know the number. I'm traveling. The rains, there's some people outside, I think. I don't know how to explain this without sounding. The line was quiet long enough that I thought I'd dropped. Then the dispatcher said my first name. Evan. I didn't remember giving it. The way she said it wasn't spooky movie soft. It was the way nurses say your name when they need you to hear math that hurts. Evan, we can't find you if we come. You can ping my. We've tried, she said gently. Before. Before what? Before this. Papers moved on her end. A pen tapped glass. Listen to me, okay? I need you to stay with me. You're going to be fine, but you have to follow directions exactly. Okay. My mouth had gotten dry in a house that sounded like an aquarium. Rule 1, she said. When the rain stops, not slows, stops, you run. You don't turn around, you run until you hit pavement and a mailbox with a flag that isn't red. That part matters. That's oddly specific. Oddly specific is the only thing that works, she said. Rule 2, don't open the basement. I wasn't planning to. Good, she said, relief audible. Third thing, if anyone comes to a window or door claiming to be law enforcement, don't let them in unless they can radio me. They won't be able to, that's how you'll know. I walked to the window anyway because people love the edges of warnings. Outside in the runnels, the pale person had doubled to 3. I could make out collarbones, no clothes, no sway. In a world drowning, they didn't seem wet. Who are they? I asked. The people. A paper slid under her pen. She didn't answer, or she didn't want to put a name on something naming me back. Stay away from glass, she said instead. They like to lean on the panes, she said, voice smaller. So when you look at your reflection, you see theirs first. The phone coughed a low battery icon like a joke. The house hummed the way houses do when air conditioning kicks, only no vent moved. I placed my palm against the wall and felt a slow, patient throb like hot water pipes. It felt like being inside a throat. Evan, I'm here. Good. I'm here too. I know it feels impossible, but it will stop. When it does, run. Mailbox that isn't red, got it. I tried to smile so she could hear it. What happens if I open the basement? She made a sound like someone stepping onto a floor they know won't hold and doing it anyway. You owe it something then, she said, and it collects. Collects what? Depends what you've been losing, she said. Fingertips, voices, time. A breath. Promise me, Evan. I promise. The phone took that moment to fade the way fish disappear in a murky tank, one part at a time. The call didn't drop so much as the sound went backward into a hallway. Evan, she asked from 2 rooms away. Evan, I started, and the screen went to 1% and then to black. My face looked back at me dull and warped. Over my shoulder, for a second that felt like a photo someone would warn you not to zoom, a blue raincoat stood inside the kitchen doorway. Short hair, rain beads like glass seeds on the hood. Eyes the color of wet steel. A polite smile like customer service. The next blink was just me and my face and the kitchen behind me being a kitchen again. I don't believe in signs. I do believe in nausea you can't walk off. I set the dead phone on the counter and told my body to pick a room and make it small. The bathroom down the hall smelled like plastic shower curtains and lemon cleaner that wasn't trying that hard. I peeled my shirt off. Mud made maps on my arms I didn't remember earning. The shampoo bottle was the fancy translucent kind with a pump. The label said clarifying in lowercase. When I pressed the pump, nothing gave. The weight of it felt wrong, too heavy for liquid. I twisted the cap off. The smell hit first, formaldehyde sweet, copper bright, the salt sweat smell of a gym bag left in a car in July. Inside the bottle, packed like pickles, were eyes. Brown, blue, gray, hazel, a cataract white like oyster shell. They weren't floating, they were pressed. 2 blinked slow like the light hurt. I put the cap back on because there's a level of wrong where you can't fix or fight, all you can do is contain. Back in the hall, the window glass ticked 3 light knocks, not door knocks, listening knocks. If you've ever had a child test your patience by tapping a spoon against a table rhythmically, you know the tempo. Tap, tap, tap. A pause, tap. Sheriff's office. A voice said through the door, friendly, down home, chuckling like he'd seen your tail light out and didn't want to write it up. Everything all right in there, partner? My mouth opened because American children are taught that sheriffs are men with hats who settle dust. Then the dispatcher's last direction lifted like a life preserver thrown right over my stupid head. Unless they can radio me, they're not mine. I stood very still. The knocks didn't come again. The voice did, softer, right at the window glass this time, lips against it so the vowels fogged. "Hey, bud," it said in the grain of my father's voice. "Open up. Quit being dramatic." I swallowed. The old reflex, explain yourself to a man you'd been trying to please since 4th grade, flared and guttered out. "No," I said, and my voice surprised me by being level. Rain stops, I run. The hum in the walls deepened as though the house had more breath to take. Somewhere a floorboard flexed. The TV on its single channel showed the attic candle gutter and then grow. The person with their back to the lens leaned forward, spine clicking, as if hearing what I'd said, or as if they'd just remembered how to stand. Rain fell in lines. I stared back until my reflection didn't flinch first. From the basement door, a wet, polite knock and my father's voice again, calm as Sunday. "Son, if you don't open this, you're going to make me come get you." The NOAA app said sunny. Big yellow sun icon, 0% precipitation. And yet when I opened the front door, the world outside looked like a waterfall had been nailed to the sky. Straight down, no wind, no rhythm, just white noise crushing the forest. The hood of my rental hissed under it like a skillet under a faucet. I laughed once, the kind of laugh that's not happy at all. I held the phone up like proof. "Look," I muttered to nobody. "Clear skies, baby. We're fine." The screen mocked me with its little forecast for Rotterdam, like maybe I was accidentally living in the wrong country or maybe in the wrong reality. The dispatcher's voice still rang in my ears. "When it stops, run. Don't look back. Don't open the basement." But the rain didn't look like it was stopping. It looked like it had never learned how. My clothes were still damp from the night before. I dug through the kitchen and came up with my brilliant survival gear, a full box of garbage bags. I sliced a head hole, punched out sleeves, wrapped another bag around my phone. I looked like a kid playing spaceman in the backyard, but it was that or drown inside the house. The porch floorboards thudded under my boots as I stepped out. The rain hit me instantly, hammering the plastic so hard it felt like hands slapping me from every direction. Water poured into my eyes, stinging, forcing me to blink fast. The forest floor had already gone swampy, mud sucked at my shoes with each step. I picked the path we'd come in on, the one with the shallow clearing. The rain was loud enough to eat my breathing, but still I felt it. The sense that I wasn't alone. I froze. Out there, maybe 30 feet, something stood among the sallow bushes and ferns. Pale, upright, human shape, but wrong somehow. The skin of it reflected the rain like porcelain. My heart went into overdrive. "Hey," I called, voice strangled by the storm. It didn't answer. It didn't move. I told myself it was a statue, a garden ornament left to rot. Who leaves a statue naked in the woods? I blinked hard, swiping rain from my face. And when my hand came down, when my vision cleared, it was closer. Not a step, not a shuffle. Just there, 10 feet closer, arms hanging loose, chin tilted down as if listening. I staggered back, almost slipped in the mud. "Nope," I muttered, shaking my head like that would wipe the picture away. I rubbed water out of my eyes again, and the thing was closer still. It wasn't walking. It wasn't moving. It was just less far away every time I blinked. The panic shot clean through me. I bolted sideways into the thicker part of the woods, branches whipping at the garbage bag plastic. My makeshift poncho shredded on the brambles, but I didn't care. Anything to avoid that thing. When I finally risked another glance back, the clearing was full. Dozens of them. Pale, slender bodies, all of them standing perfectly still, perfectly upright. My stomach dropped. I stumbled back toward the house, boots dragging mud, chest on fire. I clawed my way up the porch, the boards slick beneath me, and whipped around. The figures hadn't followed, they hadn't moved. Except their faces, every single one of them, dozens in the rain, blurred and dripping, had tilted their heads toward me, toward the house, toward the door I had just slammed shut behind me. Back at the porch, every figure has turned its face toward the door. When I slammed the door shut, my lungs burned like I'd been holding my breath the whole time outside. The rain still roared against the roof, 1,000 knuckles pounding, but in here the air felt muffled, like the walls were wrapped in cotton. I pressed my forehead to the wood, trying to calm down, but my heart wouldn't listen. I told myself I'd imagined it, that I'd panicked, blinked, seen shadows in the storm. But the picture wouldn't leave. Dozens of pale bodies, standing like mannequins, and every single head tilting toward me as I climbed the porch. I staggered back into the living room. My wet shoes left streaks of mud on the laminate. The lamp beside the couch flickered once, then steadied. And for the first time since I'd stepped inside this place, I noticed something wrong. The couch wasn't where it had been. It wasn't far, just shifted, angled differently, closer to the television. I rubbed my eyes, blamed exhaustion, but when I turned around, the hallway looked longer than it had 10 minutes ago. I froze, staring down that corridor. The first time I'd explored, there were 2 doors and a closet. Now I counted 3 doors, no closet. The baseboards didn't quite meet at 90 degrees anymore. They bent just slightly, like someone had folded the whole hallway in their hands and smoothed it back out. My brain fumbled for rational answers. Houses settle. Wood warps. My memory's trash. All true, but houses don't grow hallways in the span of a breath. The nearest door hadn't been there before, a brass knob cold under my fingers. I opened it slow. Inside was a small bedroom. Bare bones, a twin bed, dresser, no personal items. But the walls, every inch was covered in wallpaper of little blue boats sailing across whitecaps. Childish, too bright for a room this silent. I stepped in, ran my hand across the paper. It was new. Smooth, not peeling, not aged, like someone had hung it yesterday. The bed sheets were tucked military tight. The pillow had the faintest indent, like a head had been resting there until seconds ago. I backed out, throat dry. The hallway seemed to lean with me, stretching a little longer, as if encouraging me deeper. Back in the living room, the television was on again. I hadn't touched the remote. Same channel, no static, just the attic feed, low ceiling beams, a single candle stub burning on a plank floor. The person sitting there hadn't moved, back hunched, ribs like wires beneath their skin. I stared at the screen. The candle guttered, bent sideways as if in a draft. For 1 second, the orange flame stretched tall and bright. And then from directly above me in this house's attic, something flashed orange back. I didn't breathe. My eyes locked on the ceiling as if staring hard enough might keep it from collapsing in. Upstairs, the boards creaked, a deliberate weight shifting. I whispered to no one, "Oh God." The attic light flickers orange, exactly in sync with the candle on the TV. And above me, a single slow footstep crosses the ceiling. The creak above me finally went still, but the silence that followed wasn't comfort. It was loaded like the pause in a conversation where someone's deciding if they are going to say your name. I backed into the kitchen. The rain still hammered the roof in its endless straight-line cadence, a hiss that chewed the edges off my thoughts. I needed something to anchor myself, something ordinary. That's when I noticed the drawers. I'd opened them yesterday, empty, save for a couple rubber bands and that warped bulletin. But now, the top drawer was packed so tightly with brown cardboard packets I had to wedge it open with my hip. MRE, meal ready to eat. Old 2 olive drab labels with stamped dates. 1969 Fort Lewis. My grandfather used to joke about them, his cardboard cuisine from Vietnam. The kind of joke you make when you don't want to talk about what else happened there. I pulled one out, heavy in my palm. The plastic felt too new for something 50 years old. I peeled it open anyway. Inside were hard crackers, wrapped candies, a pouch of peanut butter turned to dust. I sat at the table and chewed a cracker until it crumbled like chalk between my teeth. It was disgusting. It was also real, and right now, real was better than empty. The church bulletin lay nearby, edges curled by damp. The ink had bled, but I could still make out the masthead, Dry Creek Baptist Church. Underneath a name, Pastor William Carver. Carver, my mother's maiden name. I stared at it so long the letters seemed to ripple. Was it coincidence, or was this house pulling threads from my life, braiding them into its walls? I shoved the bulletin away, suddenly sick. My throat tasted like metal. I needed water. The bathroom was just down the hall. I turned the tap, cupped my hands, drank. The water was cold, sharp. For a second it grounded me. Then my eyes drifted to the plastic bottle on the sink. Clarifying shampoo. I almost laughed. The word clarifying in this house felt like a joke. I pressed the pump once. Nothing. The bottle felt heavy, solid, wrong. I twisted the cap. The smell hit first like a morgue freezer cracked open, chemical sweet, coppery sharp, and underneath it all the sour of something that had rotted in silence. Inside the bottle, pressed tight as marbles in a jar, were eyeballs. Dozens of them. Brown, blue, green, gray. Pupils dilated wide. Some milky with cataracts, others glistening wet as if they'd been plucked seconds ago. And then one blinked. I dropped the bottle, gagging. It rolled against the wall with a hollow knock. The eyes inside shifted, every single one of them turning in unison toward me, toward the sound I'd made. I kicked it into the tub and slammed the shower curtain shut. My chest heaved like I'd been holding my breath for hours. I couldn't stay in that room another second. I staggered back into the hall, palms pressed to my ears as if that could keep the house out. But then, beneath the endless hiss of rain, another sound threaded in. A voice. Low, familiar, worn from years of cigarettes and Sunday ball games. From behind the locked basement door, my father's voice called up, calm, casual, like I'd just come home late from school. "Hey, bud, you done running yet?" From the basement, his dad's voice. "Hey, bud, you done running yet?" I didn't move. I couldn't. The voice from the basement, my father's voice, still echoed in my skull like a memory I didn't want but couldn't erase. "Hey, bud, you done running yet?" I backed into the living room, clutching my phone even though I'd sworn the battery was dead. Out of instinct or desperation, I pressed the side button. The screen lit up. One bar, emergency calls only. I didn't think. I dialed 911. A click. Then the same voice as before, the dispatcher who had known my name. This time her tone was firmer, steadier. "Evan, listen to me. You need to wait for the drop to break." The drop, my voice cracked. "What does that even mean? There's rain everywhere. It hasn't stopped since You'll know it when it happens," she interrupted. "The storm ends all at once. That's when you run. Until then, you're safer inside." I laughed bitterly. Safer? There are people, things standing out there in the trees, and something in the basement sounds like my dad. Silence hummed on the line for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried weight, like she'd rehearsed these words too many times. "That's the basement rule. You never open it, ever. The ones who did never came back out." I swallowed hard. "So you know about this, about the house, about the rain?" She sighed. "Straight line storms started showing up here in the 80s. No wind, no lightning, just rain falling like curtain rods. They always form near the woods, and every time we get calls like yours. A house nobody can find, voices from the basement, pale figures standing in the storm. My department has searched those woods a dozen times. Mile marker 19, County Road 5. We find tire tracks, boot prints, but no structure, no survivors." Her words sank in like stones. "So what am I supposed to do?" "Stay calm," she said. "Don't talk to whatever's outside. Don't answer the basement. And when the drop breaks, you run until your legs give out. Do you understand me, Evan?" Before I could respond, the phone buzzed, interference cutting across the line. A second voice bled in, crackly and tinny, like an old two-way radio. I fumbled with the buttons until I realized it wasn't my phone at all. It was the house. The television snapped alive, not with the attic feed this time, but with an audio overlay, the faint chatter of emergency services. "Copy, Engine 7. Phantom structure reported near mile marker 19. No visual confirmation. Repeat, no visual confirmation." Another voice cut in, urgent. "Dispatch, we've walked half a mile into the woods. Compass won't hold. GPS spinning. Still no sign of the building." The dispatcher on my end gasped. "That's our volunteer fire channel. You're hearing them from inside the house." Static swallowed her voice, then spat it back out, faint and trembling. "Evan, listen to me. If you see them, if you hear them knocking, you don't let them in. It's not them. Do you understand?" My mouth was so dry I could barely form the words. "Yeah, and then it came. Knock, knock, knock. 3 polite taps at the glass behind me. I turned slowly. Rain smeared the windows into gray curtains, and pressed against the pane close enough that the skin flattened like wax was a pale face. Lips didn't move, but a voice seeped through, low and patient, like it had all the time in the world. "Sheriff's office." Knock, knock, knock at the glass, then whispered, "Sheriff's office." The voice at the window, "Sheriff's office," still clung to the glass like fog. I backed away, pulse hammering. Then another sound joined it, from behind me. The basement door. The wood swelled, bulging at the seams, and a slick black line began to seep out across the floorboards. Dark water, thick as oil, smelling of pennies, asphalt after rain, and something sweeter, rotten. I gagged, stumbling back. The dispatcher's words rang in my skull. "Don't open the basement. Ever." The door shuddered against its frame. I grabbed the nearest chair, wedged it under the knob, then pressed my shoulder into it for good measure. The wood thumped like something inside was knocking, not politely this time, but with weight, with insistence. My eyes darted to the kitchen. Coins, the drawer full of them. I didn't think. I just ran, scooped up a handful, and scattered them along the basement threshold like makeshift wards. For a moment the thumping paused. Then the coins hissed. One by one their silver faces tarnished, blooming black as though burned by invisible heat. The smell grew stronger, sharp enough to sting my eyes. The drain in the laundry room gurgled. I froze. A sound bubbled up through the pipes, warped and wet. Then laughter, not random, not strange. Mine, my laugh. The sound I'd heard in old voicemails, in bad jokes, in the background of birthday videos. The drain cackled with it, replaying my joy back at me, twisting it into mockery. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't stop. The laugh grew louder, closer, echoing up the pipes until it filled the house, until it felt like the walls themselves were laughing at me. "Shut up," I whispered. "Shut up." The lights flickered. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I yanked it out, screen glowing at 1% battery, though I hadn't charged it in hours. Then it blacked out. The screen went dark, leaving only my reflection in the dead glass. And behind me, clear as day despite the gloom, stood the blue raincoat woman. She was smiling. His phone black screens. In the reflection, blue raincoat woman behind him, smiling. The storm outside didn't dim. If anything, it got heavier, but the light inside the house died anyway. One by one, the lamps flickered out, the TV screen went black, even the thin glow of my phone gave up. And then there was nothing. Not just dark, but a blackout so complete I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. No street lights, no moon, no reflection off the rain. Just a flat, blank absence, like the house had swallowed light itself. I stood frozen, one palm on the wall, the other gripping the useless phone, afraid that if I moved, I'd fall through something that wasn't there. The air felt heavier, thicker, as though the darkness itself had weight. My chest rose and fell too loud. Every breath felt like a signal flare. I pressed my hand along the wall, inching forward, tracing paint, trim nails. My fingertips found the edge of a doorway. I stepped inside slowly, boots scuffing carpet. A child's room. I couldn't see it, but I knew. The smell of chalk dust and old crayons. The faint outline of something small against the black. I brushed forward until my knuckles hit wood. A toy table. I blinked hard, straining. Just enough light leaked in from nowhere to reveal it. A model train, frozen mid-loop, little cars stalled on a circular track. The engine's nose pressed forever against the same bend, like it had been running until time itself gave up. A tiny red caboose reflected what little light there was. I reached down without thinking. Cold, colder than it should have been. That's when the sound started, not from the room, from the hallway, a scrape, then another. The sound of something heavy dragging itself stair to stair, too slow for footsteps, too deliberate to be random. The wood groaned with every push, every climb. I froze, crouched beside the toy train, my throat closed. Halfway up the stairs it stopped, silence stretched thin as glass. Then knock, 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 polite, gentle, against the wall just outside the room, and a voice followed, low, courteous, official. "Sir, building inspection." My skin prickled with ice. Every muscle in me screamed to stay still, stay silent. The knocking came again, closer. "Sir, you'll need to open up for inspection." The darkness pressed harder, like it was trying to push me into the floor. My fear flipped. Not gone, never gone, but warped into something sharper. Anger, hot and bitter. I stood, shaking, fists clenched. My voice tore out raw. "Leave me the hell alone." The house swallowed my words. Silence fell heavy and absolute. For half a breath I thought maybe I'd scared it off. And then right by my ear in the pitch-black air, a whisper, smooth, certain, final, "Found you." He shouts in fury, silence, then a whisper at his ear, "Found you." I didn't sleep. After that whisper, "Found you," the walls felt alive, the air too thin. I sat on the floor, back to the wall, knife clenched so hard my knuckles ached. That's when I noticed it, the string for the attic hatch. It swung gently in the dark hallway above me like someone had just brushed past it. No draft, no open windows, just that string swaying back and forth. At the same time, the television in the living room hissed back on. Not static, not the news, just the same single channel it always seemed to know, the attic feed. The candle burned there, steady, the wax pooling on warped boards, and the string on the TV swayed in time with the string right above my head. I don't know why I climbed the ladder. Curiosity, madness, or the desperate hope that if I confronted whatever was waiting, it would lose some of its power. The rungs creaked under my weight. The attic air was hot, dry, suffocating compared to the damp chill downstairs. The candle burned low in a stub of glass. Next to it sat a tin lunchbox, paint flaking, the kind kids carried in the '60s. I flipped the latch open with shaking fingers. Inside, Polaroids, dozens of them, each one washed in muted colors, rain streaks cutting across the lens. A farmhouse, a trailer park, a two-story colonial on a cul-de-sac. Different houses, different storms, but always the same figures in the background, tall, pale, motionless. I flipped through photo after photo, hands trembling. In one I saw a man at a kitchen window, his expression half obscured by water, but I recognized the slump of his shoulders, the curve of his nose. It was me. I dropped the picture. It fluttered into the wax puddle, curling in the flame. A hiss crackled nearby. I turned. Against the far wall, perched on a shelf, was a battered CB radio. Its dials glowed faint amber even though I hadn't touched it. I lifted the receiver. At first only static. Then beneath it a voice, familiar, female, the dispatcher. But she wasn't giving instructions this time, she was praying. Not "Dear Lord" or "Our Father," not anything rehearsed. Just raw, whispered words, her voice breaking. "Please keep him safe. Please, God, keep Evan James safe. Please let him see the drop break. Please don't let the house take another." Hearing my full name in her mouth made my stomach twist. I'd never told her that. The static swelled, drowning her out. I dropped the receiver, heart pounding. That's when I heard it. A faint rasping, wood against wood. I turned. From the attic hatch where the ladder met the ceiling, pale fingers had begun to slide through the gap. Not one, not two, 10. Thin, colorless, jointed, wrong. They curled over the edge of the hatch, easing their way inside. From the hatch gap, 10 pale fingers easing in. The fingers hadn't even finished curling through the attic hatch when it happened. The rain stopped. Not slowed. Not eased. 1 second the roof roared like a freight train, the next it went dead silent like somebody had turned off the faucet of the sky. The stillness slammed into me harder than the storm ever did. The dispatcher's words rang in my skull. When the drop breaks, you run. I didn't wait. I didn't look back at the hatch or the fingers or the candle burning itself to nothing. I bolted down the ladder across the hall and shouldered the front door open. The air outside was wet, heavy, sweet, like a field after harvest. The forest gleamed, every fern dripping, every trunk steaming. For one beat it almost looked beautiful. Then they moved, the unseeing, dozens of them, pale and tall, scattered across the clearing. For hours they'd stood frozen, necks tilted, blank. But the second I hit the porch, they all tilted at once, 100 heads swiveling toward me in perfect sync. I didn't think, my legs did the work. I vaulted the steps, mud sucking at my boots, and sprinted into the logging road. The forest blurred around me, dripping, steaming. My chest burned, my calves screamed. I pushed harder. Behind me, no footsteps, no sound, but I didn't need to look back. The air itself carried their attention, a pressure between my shoulders. I passed a mile marker, 17. Another, maybe 5 minutes later, 17 again. My stomach lurched. Either I was running in circles or the road was lying to me. I kept going. Branches whipped my arms, mud clawed at my soles, my vision tunneled. I tasted iron in the back of my throat. That's when I saw it. Through the fog rising from the soaked asphalt, a neon glow, yellow letters humming, flickering against the mist. Waffle House. I stumbled, nearly falling. A Waffle House, out here, in the middle of endless woods. But the glow was real, the sign buzzed, and through the foggy glass I could see tables, booths, a counter lined with stools, light, warmth, a place where the world might make sense again. I staggered inside, a bell jingling above me. Like this was any other greasy spoon at the edge of any other highway. The air smelled of syrup and bacon grease. And in the corner booth she waited. Blue raincoat woman. Hood down now, hair damp and curling around her face, eyes the color of wet steel. A plate sat in front of her, untouched. Her hands folded neatly like she'd been waiting all along. She looked up at me, smiled like a teacher calling a truant kid back to class, and patted the seat across from her. "Sit," she said softly. Her smile never reached her eyes. "Or you'll never leave." Blue raincoat woman waiting in the booth. "Sit, or you'll never leave." I slid into the booth across from her because what else was I going to do? Run back into the woods and hope the mile markers made sense this time. The vinyl seat groaned under me. The warmth felt wrong on my skin, like the place was too solid, too safe. A waitress shuffled over, pen tucked behind her ear, apron stained the way all diner aprons are. She didn't ask what I wanted. She just smiled, poured coffee into the chipped mug in front of me, and said, "Same as when you were a kid, right? Eggs over medium, bacon crispy, wheat toast." My stomach bottomed out. "How do you?" She winked like it was an inside joke. "Honey, you've been ordering that since you were 10. You want jelly on the toast." I couldn't answer, my throat locked. Across from me, the blue raincoat woman stirred her own untouched coffee. "Don't fight it," she said. "This place knows you, like the house knows you. They're not separate." I leaned forward. "What is it? The house, the rain, what are you?" She smiled without warmth. "Rules, that's all we are. The house finds people who stop choosing, people who quit their lives mid-sentence, and then it keeps them, fills its rooms with their leftovers." Her eyes glinted. "I was one once." My hands shook. "So why me?" "Because you were drifting, because you were ready to disappear, and because you didn't think anyone would miss you." The waitress slid plates onto the table, eggs, bacon, toast, exactly how I used to eat them. The smell punched me with memories. Saturday mornings, cartoons humming in the background, my mom humming too. My vision blurred. The woman in the raincoat watched me carefully, as if testing. "Eat," she said. "The house will wait, but it always collects." I couldn't. My stomach twisted. Instead, I pulled out my wallet, fumbling a credit card onto the table just to feel like I had control. "Fine. Bill me. Let's see if this place is real." The waitress took the card, ran it through the machine behind the counter. The receipt printed, ink scratching against the paper. She brought it back, smiling too wide. "Here you go, hon." I glanced down, my chest seized. The name on the receipt wasn't mine. It was a handle I'd used years ago online, a screen name I thought I'd buried. I shoved another card at her, frantic. She swiped it. Another receipt, another name, an email I'd made in college. I grabbed the machine, my hands shaking, feeding every card I had. Receipts spat out, piling across the counter. Each one stamped with some version of me I'd abandoned. Usernames, nicknames, fake ID, lies I'd told, lives I'd half-lived. The pile grew higher, spilling like confetti. Then I saw it. The last slip of paper curled warm in my hand. It didn't say Evan. It didn't say an alias. It printed a name I hadn't spoken aloud in years, not since I was a kid standing in a yard with a baseball glove too big for my hand. It said my father's. Black letters on cheap paper, smudged by my shaking thumb. Sheriff lights flash outside the Waffle House windows. The newest receipt in his hand doesn't bear his name, it bears his dad's. The diner windows flashed red and blue, colors sliding across the rain-streaked glass like carnival lights. My heart seized police. For a second, hope bloomed in me like fire. Maybe rescue was real. Maybe this nightmare had an exit. The door banged open. A sheriff stepped inside. Wide shoulders, gray stubble, uniform damp from the mist. He looked at me like he'd been expecting me. "Evan James," he said flatly. I couldn't breathe. You know me." He didn't answer right away. He slid into the booth across from me, ignoring the blue raincoat woman like she wasn't there. He set a battered folder on the table. The paper edges were curled from years of handling. He flipped it open. Inside, case files, black and white photos, reports typed on county letterhead. "Straight line rain," he said, voice tired. "Been chasing it since before I pinned this badge. Every time it comes, we get stories. Houses no one can find. Survivors who wander out of the woods half dead, and always the same details. Rain falls straight as rods. No thunder, no lightning, just the water and the missing." He slid a photo toward me. A man in his 30s, soaked, eyes wide like he'd seen God and didn't like him. One of the lucky ones, he made it out, lived another 10 years, but the sheriff tapped the corner of the file. He couldn't talk above a whisper, said the house kept his voice. He turned another page. A woman in her 20s, face pale, hands bandaged. She made it too, but the house took her fingertips, said she opened the wrong door. I stared at him. And me, what does it want from me? He closed the folder. His eyes were heavy, sunken. "Something you've been running from, it doesn't matter what. The house knows, it always takes a piece. Nobody walks away whole." The diner lights buzzed. The Waffle House sign flickered outside. My pulse thudded in my ears. "Come on," he said, rising. "If you want answers, you'll ride with me, but you won't like where we're going." I followed him out into the mist. His cruiser idled by the curb, headlights boring holes through the fog. The blue raincoat woman stayed behind, still in her booth, watching me with that patient, awful smile. The sheriff drove in silence, wipers squealing against the windshield. We turned off the main road, gravel crunching under the tires. I glanced at the dash. "Mile marker 19, he said, as if reading my mind. "Always here, always." We climbed higher into the hills, fog thick as wool. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, then died again. I checked the map the sheriff had tossed on the console. According to it, the road we were on shouldn't exist. It ended half a mile back, swallowed by blue ink labeled reservoir. Yet here we were, headlights tunneling forward, gravel endless under the wheels. The sheriff didn't flinch. That's how it works. The maps lie, the roads stretch, and at the end, he shook his head. "At the end, you'll see." We crested a rise. The cruiser headlights swung over the incline, and there it was, the house. Sitting square in the middle of the road, bone dry as if it hadn't seen a drop of rain in years. Porch lights glowing. Front door cracked open like it had been waiting all along. They top a rise. The house sits in the road, dry, front door open. The cruiser rolled to a stop, gravel popping under the tires. Headlights washed over the house, familiar, wrong, patient. The same peeling porch rails, the same rocking chairs. The rain hadn't touched it, not a single shingle dripped. The sheriff killed the engine, but he didn't move. He sat gripping the wheel, eyes locked on the front door. "Let's go," I said, voice tight. He shook his head. "Not me, it doesn't want me." "What are you talking about?" His hand twitched on the wheel, knuckles white. "I tried once, 20 years back. I made it 2 steps inside before the walls bent. My partner kept going. I never saw him again. The house knows who it's after, and it's after you." My chest constricted. "So you're just what, sending me in alone?" He didn't look at me. "Son, you were already chosen the moment you stepped off your life. The moment you stopped choosing. That's what it feeds on. That's why you're here." The words stuck like splinters. I wanted to scream at him, to run, to deny everything. But the front door stood ajar, spilling warm light onto the gravel, waiting. I forced my legs to move. The porch groaned under my weight. My hand shook as I pushed the door open. Inside, the air was still heavy with dust. The living room looked the same, couch, TV, the entry table, but something in the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a stage. The first door to my right creaked open on its own. I stepped closer, and there it was, a memory. Me at 21, slouched on a couch, half buried in textbooks. My girlfriend at the time stood in the doorway, asking why I couldn't just come out with her, why I always had to study. My double didn't answer. He just kept staring at the page, waiting for her to leave. When she finally did, the air in the room froze, like the house was daring me. "See, you chose the book. You chose yourself. You left her behind." I stumbled out, heart hammering. The next room was worse. My parents' kitchen. My mom asking why I never came home anymore. My dad sitting silent at the table, eyes full of disappointment. And me, another me, staring at my phone, not looking up, not answering. I tried to shout that it wasn't fair, that life had been suffocating, that I hadn't meant to drift so far. But the memory played on like bad theater, deaf to my voice. Every door I opened led to another scene. Dropped friends, ignored calls, abandoned chances. Each room throwing my failures back at me like accusations. By the time I reached the living room again, my legs were trembling. The air hummed low, vibrating through the floor. That's when I heard it. The basement door, it creaked on its own. The latch slid back with a metallic click. The wood groaned as it inched open. The basement rule, the one command I had left, was breaking itself. Basement door creaks. The rule breaks itself. The door groaned wider on its hinges until the smell hit me. Damp metal, hot copper, and something sweeter, like tears boiled down to syrup. I should have turned back. Every instinct screamed not to take a step further, but the house wasn't asking anymore. It was pulling. The stairs bowed under my weight. My boots splashed into water that rose to my knees, warm like a bath someone had just left. My skin crawled. The basement stretched wider than it should have, columns of shadow receding into a foggy dark. The ceiling pipes hummed, vibrating like a hive. And there against the far wall sat a wire basket. I slogged closer, water sloshing thick against my legs. Inside the basket lay coins, nickels, dimes, pennies, hundreds of them, all tarnished black. Mixed in were things stranger, a key bent in half, a wedding ring warped out of shape, a child's tooth still pink at the root. I picked one coin up, rubbed it against my palm. It left a faint circle of moisture, as if it had absorbed someone's tears and was still weeping. The hum deepened. I turned. In the far corner, a rusted electrical sub-panel clung to the wall. Its casing trembled, wires dangling like veins. The hum resolved into syllables, low and grinding like a generator trying to speak. Account, record, inventory. The voice wasn't loud. It vibrated inside my bones, each word a pressure behind my eyes. On a shelf nearby, half flooded, sat a notebook swollen with damp. I dragged it free, pages sticking together, ink running. Names filled every line, hundreds of them. Some were crossed out, others circled, and near the bottom I saw it, Carla Reyes, the dispatcher. My throat went dry. My hands shook so badly the notebook nearly slipped from my grip. Before I could turn another page, the hum rose, swallowing the air. The lights overhead stuttered. And then the house spoke clearly. Not through the drain, not through my father's voice, not through some whisper at my ear. It spoke with its own voice. Flat, calm, certain. Pick a life or I pick for you. The house speaks plainly. Pick a life or I pick for you. The words from the basement rattled through my ribs. Pick a life, or I pick for you. My mouth went dry. My voice cracked out of me before I even knew I was speaking. I'll stop, I said. No more drifting, no more running. I'll call my mom, I'll go home, I'll do it right this time. The water lapped higher against my knees, warm as breath. Please, I whispered. Just let me choose, let me fix it. The humming eased, then shifted, like a current redirecting. The basement walls stretched, no, not stretched, changed. The stairwell behind me melted into a hallway, long and flickering, doors branching left and right. The air shimmered, each doorway glowing faint like heat mirages. I stumbled forward. The first door swung open on its own. Inside, a classroom, rows of desks. A blackboard scrawled with equations. And me, older, steadier, standing at the front, a teacher's badge clipped to my shirt. The life I'd once said I wanted before I let the grind choke it out. The door slammed. Another yawned open. A modest apartment, warm light spilling through curtains. A woman's laughter from the kitchen. My girlfriend, the one I'd left behind, setting plates down for dinner. The smell of garlic bread, the sound of a life I could have had if I'd just shown up. The door closed. Another opened. An office. Sleek. Glass walls. My reflection in a suit I'd never owned. A career path I'd almost clawed toward before I let it rot. The hallway kept unraveling. Door after door. Versions of me in places I'd once aimed at but abandoned. I pressed my palms to my skull, dizzy, like all the air was being sucked out of me. The hum pressed harder, demanding. I staggered toward one door, the smallest, the plainest. A simple house, one story, nothing grand. My mom at the window, older but smiling. A phone ringing on the counter. Me walking in, finally answering. My chest clenched, tears burned hot behind my eyes. That one, I whispered. I'll take that one, please. The hum shifted again. The chosen door glowed, sharp as a sunbeam through rain. The others, dozens of them, faded into mist, thinning, dissolving like water evaporating off hot asphalt. The hallway narrowed back into the basement, the warm water sucking at my legs. The notebook floated by my knees, pages curling, names bleeding. I let out a long, shaking breath. I chose, I said, it's done. Then I heard the splash behind me, slow, heavy. I turned. The unseeing were inside now. Pale, long-limbed figures stepping down into the basement water, one after another, silent as mannequins. Their heads tilted toward the drain in the floor, as if something below was calling them. The unseeing step inside, toward the drain. My phone screen lit up in my pocket, startling me. For the first time in hours, maybe days, it had service. The NOAA weather app blinked alive. The little yellow sun was gone. Special weather statement. My throat tightened. The text scrolled across the screen, letters jittering as if the app itself was shaking. Severe straight-line event in your area. If inside, do not approach drains. If outside, do not look back. The basement hummed louder, shaking the warm water around my knees. The unseeing waded closer, pale bodies bending toward the drain in the floor like worshippers bowing to an altar. I staggered backward, nearly slipping. My eyes caught the attic hatch above, the memory of the candle stub burning on its board. That was it. That was the only thing in this house that ever fought back. I climbed, half running, half hauling myself up the stairs and into the attic. The candle still burned, wax spilling down its stubby sides. The tin lunchbox of Polaroid sat open beside it, photos curling damp in the heat. My hand shook as I picked it up. "Please," I whispered to nothing, "please work." I tilted the candle sideways, wax drooling hot onto my fingers. It hissed as it fell through the hatch gap, dripping down into the basement below. For a second, nothing. Then the wax hit the water. The hum broke. It didn't fade, it didn't dim. It snapped like a power line cut clean in half. The air lightened, my chest loosened. I scrambled down, breath ragged. The basement water shimmered, its surface vibrating, and the unseeing froze mid-step like mannequins stuck in unfinished poses. The walls straightened. Windows in the house, every single one, snapped back to their angles. Corners squared again, doors realigned, the place stopped warping. I laughed once, ragged, half sobbing. I'd broken it. I'd finally broken it. Then I heard it, a voice, not the sheriff, not the dispatcher, not my father's, soft, small, from the drain. It was my own voice, younger, higher, me at 8 years old, the summer I used to sit in the backyard with a baseball glove too big for my hand. "Don't forget me," it whispered. A final voice from the drain, soft like himself at 8. "Don't forget me." I walked out into dawn. For the first time since this began, the sky was clear. No walls of water, no endless hiss, just soft gray light washing over dripping pines. My boots squelched on mud, but ahead of me the gravel shimmered dry, and there it was, a county road, real, paved, marked with fresh yellow paint. A road that hadn't existed before, and this time my map didn't lie. I stumbled forward until I reached the shoulder, where asphalt met gravel. My legs nearly gave out. I dropped to my knees and just let the air fill me, clean and cold, until the burning in my chest eased. That's when I saw her. A white SUV pulled up, county insignia stenciled on the door. The dispatcher stepped out. She wasn't a voice on the line anymore. She was flesh and bone, hair pulled back, eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept in a week. And when she held out her hand, I saw it immediately. 2 fingertips missing, clean gone, bandaged stumps where they should have been. "The house keeps tips," she said softly, almost like a joke, but her smile didn't hold. "You're lucky you got out with what you did." I wanted to ask her 1,000 things, how long she'd known, how many others had called, what it all meant, but my throat locked. She only shook her head as if reading the questions before they formed. "Go home, Evan, don't look back. Whatever peace it wanted, don't give it the rest." She drove off, tail lights blinking red against the pale morning. I stood there until the sound of her engine faded. Later, in the parking lot of a Les Schwab Tires, I finally found the courage to pick up a payphone and dial. The number I should have dialed years ago. "Mom," my voice cracked. The pause on the other end, then the sob of relief. "Evan, oh my God, where have you been?" I pressed my forehead against the cold metal of the receiver, eyes burning. "I'm coming home." We talked until the quarters ran out. I stayed there in the lot long after the line went dead, cars rumbling by, morning opening like nothing had happened. But something had. In my pocket I still had it. One coin from the basement, blackened, edges smooth with age. I pulled it out, set it on the hood of my car. The metal was warm. And when I lifted it, a perfect wet circle stained the paint, as though even here, even now, the house was still crying through me. He keeps one coin from the basement. It's warm. When he sets it down, it leaves a ring of water.